Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Identity Library. My name is Veronica Becher, and today we're gonna have a maybe special New Year edition episode. I'm here in the studio by myself, and I would love to talk about New Year's resolutions, things that are ahead of us, things that happened in the past. How can you actually feel like you own your life and enjoy your next life, next months, with a little bit less uncertainty, of course? And maybe give you a little rundown of what's been happening with Identity Library these past couple of months, where I have been, and any other further updates. With that, let's just start. So, dear listeners, I know it's been a while. I've set a goal for last semester to record more episodes, and then I ended up literally recording more episodes, but not uploading any of them. And to be honest, life just happened. I had such a long episode recording, and after that I was just burned out, not gonna lie. But this episode was great, and I'm really excited when it comes out this semester, hopefully. So I hope you all had a great start into the new year, 2026. It's an exciting year. I hope that it's going to get better, especially when it comes to the job market, especially when it comes to politics and a lot of other things that I've been seeing and thinking, this is just crazy. I don't know where to stand with it. And honestly, sometimes I'm also done with certain things. Well, right now, what's happening in the studio? Well, our studio is getting revamped. We finally have LED lights, what is an amazing amazing thing. So if you're a guest coming to my podcast, you're gonna see some cool LED lights, and trust me, it looks better, much better. And I'm excited for this little update in life. Also, well, my episode competed at the international broadcasting competition in the whole world, and I actually ended up being a finalist. So I'm really excited, and I wanted to just say thank you. I probably would have never gotten where I'm at right now if it would have been not Abdullah Najjar, who's probably listening to this episode. Even if he's not, he will probably in the future. And the fact that he actually got me into the podcast, that he managed to convince me that I should be here and record my own episodes. Even like the support I got from so many people. I mean, people would reach out from different countries. I realized that my Japanese pen pal is actually listening to my episodes and is learning English like that. Was kind of like really humbling, but also crazy for me, especially as a foreigner who's trying to speak English. This is beautiful. I'm super happy and excited. My podcast got featured in the Pool College of Management at NC State Journal, and I'm super excited that I even had the opportunity for my podcast to shine and to reach more people. And I'm just really excited to bring new people in, to record more, to maybe expand also into online recordings, what is quite a challenge when it comes to the technological part. But I feel like people have been waiting for a while for new episodes to drop, and if that's increasing the chance of me recording with someone and being able to be present and have the opportunity, I'm just down for it. Honestly, I think this is exactly what I should do. So, my dear listeners, please don't be upset if this is maybe more an update episode than a really highly informative episode ever. So yeah, we managed to get to the finalist round in the whole world. And honestly, I'm even more proud that my podcast was under the top podcast for best new talent, or like a talent, podcast talent in general, and then for the category of best established podcast. What is amazing. I mean, I looked into so many great podcasts and I realized there's so many interesting podcasts out there that we just never hear about and never even know that they exist, right? And it was just amazing to be in this community, to have the opportunity to communicate, and I reached out to a couple of podcasters, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, you're recording episodes about bad movie reviews, like things like that, where I was like, this is amazing, and I'm really excited what's gonna happen next. So if you are a listener of mine, if you want to be on my podcast, if you're excited, if you feel like, I mean, one of the biggest challenges, especially as a podcaster nowadays here and at WKNC, is we have more and more talents coming in. We have more podcasts that are getting recognition and more interesting stories to be shared. But I realized there are so many people out there that are, first of all, really scared to be on a podcast. What is a really valid point, to be fair. I think I would have been also nervous, and honestly, I always like to say I'm actually the most nervous person out of both of us. If you're sitting in my studio, I'm probably more nervous than you are, because as a leader in that sense, it's super difficult sometimes to get the story out of a person, and it also takes a lot of strength and also trust in me that I will do a great job and give them the opportunity to share their story and a platform where they feel comfortable doing that. Second of all, I feel like a lot of people don't think they're unique enough. And that's something that I've been noticing as an issue last semester, is the thing of you think you have to be special in a certain way and have a special story to tell in order to be worth of being recorded. And that's not the case. I think we often underestimate the fact that our life, or like our daily stories, like slice of life kind of thing, is the most natural thing and the most unique thing that we can actually experience. It's not about you having the crazy story how you were a cowboy in South Dakota and you've been doing something really obscure. Oh my gosh, I cannot speak anymore. No, it's not about that. I think it's about realizing that what I'm looking for on this podcast is you just, even if it's just a little hobby or just a topic that you've been curious about and you've been learning in class, or it's something that you've been noticing in your family and you're like, this is something I would like to share. And it's really difficult sometimes to bridge the gap between a story that I don't even know yet and a story you think is not worth it, but actually it is. Because what is Identity Library? I think Identity Library is about people, just normal people, sharing their stories and realizing that their life experiences aren't maybe unique to other people, but there's a uniqueness in the fact that they're sharing it and that they're just living their own life. I think that this episode marks a really important step in my podcast journey, and it's just realizing that whoever is listening to this special bonus edition, please be aware that it's totally okay not knowing what exactly to share, but it doesn't have to be so special, because in the end of the day, we're all trying to be unique and how to stand out and how to be different. But at the same time, the thing that connects us is not always the uniqueness, but the thing that we actually realize in other people that they have too. And so my third point, to get the 3 points in, I think my professors would be really proud of me for leadership training number 1, point out always 3 things so actually your listeners can remember what you said. The third point is, sometimes it's difficult to know as a person who is the podcaster what you actually could bring to the table. And so if you're thinking, I have no idea, it's very difficult to figure out what is a topic the person can talk about if I don't know them. So I always like to say, pick a theme. Think of a theme that you find interesting, that you could talk for hours. That's something that you like think about a lot. Something that inspires you, something that gives you the motivation to go through the day and talk about it. Because that's exactly what I think should be addressed in a podcast. Yeah, and so these are probably my reflections for this past semester, where I realized that you sometimes have to step back. You need to regain a little bit more your energy. Life gets in the way of things, and that's okay. But at the same time, I'm always curious to hear new stories. I'm always open to new things. And if there's someone out there who really wants to be on a podcast and even just get the experience, and in the end, if I don't publish your podcast episode because you feel uncomfortable in the end of the day, you have the experience, people. And that's exactly what counts. So now we're going over, after my huge long rant, to the actual episode that is about New Year's resolutions and past experiences. And we touched upon it. But I feel like one of the biggest challenges we face in the end of the semester or in the end of the year is the urge that we have to change something about our life. And something I've noticed, especially since I went to the gym yesterday and school started, and happy first day of classes, y'all, seriously. It was horrible. I feel like Times Square just decided to come over to NC State into the gym, and there was just no way of me even being able to do anything yesterday. It was kind of like an all body workout. Just find one specific thing you can do and stick to it, because there was just no way of me exercising fully the way I wanted to. And honestly, that's totally fine. I think people need to have resolutions, and people should have probably also ambitions for the new year. But I think something that people underestimate is the fact that it's okay to not change anything about your life. What if your year was great? And I'm not saying that great means in all regards. It's what if your year was actually already great the way it is, and you don't want to start a new workout routine. And there's something about psychology where we tend to start things over on Mondays, or we think, let's just move it to another day when it's the first of the month, when it's the new year, when it's a Monday, when it's not a random Wednesday. And we tend to move important decisions to a day that feels like we just neglect making a decision. And you've probably all heard this whole thing of not making a decision is a decision. And what I'm trying to say is, you don't have to do a whole New Year's resolution planning, but also you can do it. I think it's just the way people do it is not always productive, and it doesn't really help you establish habits that will lead you to something that is an outcome in a long-lasting way. So yeah, if you don't want to change it, don't change it. And that's my first point of this whole episode. Don't try to be someone else or something else or change your life just because it's a new year. But also, I don't want you to wait till the special moment happens, because it will never happen. And that's exactly how this podcast started. I think the more we overplan things too, the least we do it. There's this concept that happens a lot in the entrepreneurial startup branch. And it's this thing that people, it comes back to psychology and a study that was conducted by Hofstede. And Hofstede is a former, he has a consultancy, and a lot of international researchers refer to him, but they always are not sure if Hofstede is really like a credible source to use, since his research is just smaller. And so there's this so-called globe study that was used, and it's usually more credible. But Hofstede has some of the components that the globe study has, and the globe study was conducted, I think, like at a time, 10 years of data analysis, and then they published a huge book about something that is leadership related, and how, for instance, CEOs or leaders in different countries react, and how culture plays a role in how we lead people. And I'm not trying to make this a boring episode about leadership specifically, or business-related, psychology-related things. But the interesting thing is that Hofstede realized how we see the world is really highly correlated to culture that we're living in. And some people maybe might think now, that's totally obvious. But one thing that is actually important to note down is that Hofstede has this concept of if you think long-term or short-term. So researcher found that in Germany, for instance, people tend to think more long-term, while in the United States, people look more at short-term goals. So if you're creating a product that needs to be innovative enough, fastly on the market, and you don't have time, when you plan ahead long-term, it can be good because you're trying to minimize risk, right? You want to make a product that is really profitable in the long run. But the thing is, the people that are actually short-term oriented, they produce the product, and even if it has its faults, it gets right away released. And what happens if you have a product that is not released because it needs 10 years of development versus a product that wasn't great, but was released in a year? Most likely, the product with the 1 year might fail, but also it might actually succeed. Maybe even more likely than the product with the 10 years of production. And so what is really interesting in this whole big picture is that if we think this way, maybe because of our culture and our background, we tend to plan in a certain way, even our life. We tend to think long-term and think, well, I'm going to do this, but I need 10 years to prepare to be actually the podcaster because I don't have the resources yet. And what I'm trying to shout out to you guys, and I want you guys to give a shot, is what about if you are a short-term planner for once and you're thinking the product isn't done yet, it's not perfect, but it is out there. And I always think about it, this is probably how things work. You try and you fail, but because you try, you do more than most people do because you are taking the first step. And so I'm going back to the New Year's resolutions on New Year's and the gym. I'm always happy when people set resolutions for the new year and they actually stick to it and they want to do it and they actually at least go to the gym, even if they don't know exactly everything about the gym. But at the same time, you have to ask yourself, do you actually want to do it? Do you need it? Or do you just feel pressured by society to do it? So then the next step is how actually I reset myself for the new year. I have a partner who's actually completely against almost, well, I wouldn't say he's against resolutions, but he doesn't really implement New Year's resolutions the way I do it. And I realized we're just completely two different people. Someone who might not need it is better off not planning ahead and not thinking about it too much. But for me, as a long-term planner, sometimes it's intimidating to stand in front of a year and not knowing what I'm facing. And so this is for all my long-term planners and people that actually want to see a little bit more ahead. And I get expired. I get expired. Beautiful. This feels like a milk that I got expired. I get inspired by the Mel Robbins podcast, what is a really well-known podcast. Probably a lot of people have heard of her. She's a great podcaster out there, and various other podcasters that I've been seeing doing these episodes. And I was thinking, how can I combine the research that was done on these episodes and podcasts with a concept that I actually talked about with Gavin Bell? And if you look into it, it was an episode I recorded a year ago about Lumbee tribes and how the well-being chart, so they have a chart of 4 different quadrants. Please just have a listen to this. This is probably one of my almost, I would say even my favorite episode that I've ever recorded and the most impactful one. And it's about how do you balance different things, how do you balance your life, and how you can't just invest fully into only the gym to feel happy, to feel good, to feel not depressed. So you need to invest into your spiritual, emotional, physical realm, and in your community, and find ways of bringing them all together into a balanced way in order to create a happiness feeling in yourself and being satisfied with your life. So after thinking about it, I realized maybe the New Year's resolution tactic has to have to do something with this specific quadrant. Because what is if a lot of times when we set New Year's resolutions, we always think about, this is the one thing I want to do. I want to go more to the gym. I want to do more this. I want to do more that. I want to eat healthy, go on a diet, lose 10 kilograms, do this, do that. And I think this is why it never gets you to the point. And so a lot of researchers talk about, even in business, that you have to set goals that are actually concrete goals that you can achieve because they are measurable. They have a time frame. But I think a time frame doesn't always work. And so the concept of you starting something on Monday or New Year's doesn't work sometimes. So if you are planning and starting now to do something as a New Year's resolution, don't say you have to be done in December. Say you actually want to just start now to get somewhere, and maybe by December to reach that goal. But if you don't reach that goal by December, you just continue walking and continue improving and continue working on these New Year's resolutions that you shouldn't call New Year's resolutions to begin with at this point. So going back to the actual 4 quadrants that we have, a lot of times when we set New Year's resolutions, we set New Year's resolutions in just one quadrant. For instance, the physical realm. We don't think of all of our parts that we need for our happiness to achieve it, to ensure that we have an optimized program where the New Year's resolutions what we set are actually being implemented. And with that, I created this really small concept that is a combination of all the resources and podcasts and things that I've read in these past months and things that I've been doing for years. And I hope you're enjoying that. So let's start with the first thing. First of all, I think you should decide on a theme of the year. And I realize we set a lot of resolutions that we can't focus on. Like the human brain can't even comprehend past 3 points, the major points that a presenter even tells you. How can we even then fulfill all our New Year's resolutions and tackle all aspects of our life? It's kind of controversial to the quadrant having 4 different aspects. But I think, what is if you actually set one theme of the year and say you want to focus on health? And that's going to be your New Year's resolution. And then on the other hand, you maybe want to set one more, like balance or depth, a word that will define your year. When we focus on too many things, we get overwhelmed really fast. But if we focus on one thing at a time, it helps us, first of all, track our goals, understand better where we're going, and understand the reason why we're going there, and also build it out more. So it's like a funnel effect, where we start with the big theme of the year by defining it. The theme gives you the direction without the rigidity. So it acts like a North Star, something you can return to when motivation fades, plans change, or life interrupts you. Like studying, your family is not doing well, or maybe something good happened, right? And more importantly, a theme allows you to grow with your life instead of fighting against it. So if you're resetting for the new year, this is why I would start with defining the theme of your year. You can ask yourself with, for instance, what is your overarching energy? Like, what do you want to live from this life, from this year? I mean, not what you want to achieve, but who do you want to practice being? Like a theme could be theme of consistency, alignment, to choose myself, a year to build myself up, to be a better speaker, to be softened without shrinking, something like that. So the theme becomes, in the end of the day, like a lens through which you make decisions. So when you're unsure whether to say yes or no, whether to push or pause, you come back to the theme and ask, does this move me closer to the person I'm trying to become this year? Because in the end of the day, a New Year's resolution is not to gain someone's approval. And it brings back to the fact that the reason why I want people to be on my podcast is not that they think they're not unique enough. It's they realize too late how valuable their experiences are. And maybe I value it, but I also think there are a lot of listeners that value their experience too. And it has something to do with who we are as people, right? So New Year's resolutions sometimes, or finding a theme, is the same thing. Once we know that the theme is clear and what we want to do, everything else will come into place. So, step 2, look back before you look forward. So before we design the future, what is really important, and something I did in this episode, is we need to have a close look into our past properly. One idea I really like to emphasize here is inspired by Mel Robbins, who recorded an episode just recently, I think a month ago, is looking through your old photos from this year. And everyone has a phone, and nowadays I think most people use their phone to take photos. And we sometimes forget to take photos. Not gonna lie, I'm one of these people. I realize I have barely any photos of my close friends sometimes, and I have to change that. But I want you to not romanticize the past, but to collect evidence. We forget all the time the little moments and things that happened past year, and maybe it was not the best thing, but you took a photo of it, right? Maybe you recorded it somewhere, maybe you wrote it down, maybe you have a diary, or maybe you use a gratitude journal. Whatever it is that you can use as evidence, you should definitely scroll through it and look through it slowly, without judgment, without captions, and notice what comes up. Photos don't just show what happened, they show who you were becoming when you weren't paying attention, and that's important. So ask yourself, what moments did I forget that actually mattered? How did I feel in different seasons of the year? When did I look most like myself? And what did I survive that I no longer give myself credit for? Especially the last question. When I was trying to pre-organize this episode, I realized this is really important. It's really important to understand that we sometimes don't give ourselves enough credit for the things we've done. Yes, it was a hard year. Give yourself some credit. Take your time and recognize that even though you failed, you've learned something out of it. Maybe you didn't learn anything, but you did gain something out of it. And even if it was a good or bad experience, I want you to at least, even if you're not sharing this on my podcast, to acknowledge it to yourself. This step is important because confidence doesn't come from imagining a better future. It comes from remembering what you already handled. It's not you thinking what could happen if I'm standing in front of people and there are 1,000 people looking at me. It's about you being, oh, actually, I've done a presentation before in front of 50 people. So what does that mean? Maybe I could even do more, like standing in front of more people in the future. Reflection gives you proof, and proof builds trust in yourself. So go through your photos and remember moments that matter to you and that shaped you for who you are. Step 3. Structured reflection, naming the year that was. Once you've gotten yourself a memory, this is where intentional reflection comes in. This is where I would like you to ask questions like, what did I do this year that I have never done before? I used to do this thing. I've done a recording once with Abdullah Najjar about New Year's resolutions and reflections. And I used to do this thing, and I still do it from time to time. I ask myself 100 questions after the end of the year of things that I've done and I could have done, and what happened as a reflection, my themes, where did I travel, who got pregnant, I don't know, things like that. It's just a crazy questionnaire. But I realized there are a couple of questions that are probably more important. And it's important to reflect, even if it's just you thinking about it. But writing down is probably better. And I know it sounds like a lot of work at first, but once you put in the work, you will actually thank yourself later. And I say that for a good reason, because when you're actually reflecting and you're looking back a year later and you still have that recorded, I will tell you, you will see so much better the progress you've made. You will see so much better what you could have done better and where you can work on. And it gives you clarity and understanding because we forget so many details, so many things. Have you ever experienced a situation when some of your friends mentioned a really funny joke and you've forgotten about it? And you're like, oh yes, you've definitely said that to me. We had this conversation. Exactly. That's exactly what I had to do. But what if there's no one to remind you of these situations? And I think that's where evidence comes in. That's why reflections sometimes are really helpful, even though we tend to ignore them and not do them or overextend ourselves. And I know this whole list is really long, but I want you to understand that once you do it more often, you can readjust it and adjust it to your lifestyle that fits you personally. So, next question. What was my biggest achievement? What changed in my work, my home, or my relationships? Where did my energy go? Emotionally, financially, physically? Thinking of the quadrant again, where did I invest the most? Spiritually, emotionally, physically? Where did I actually engage myself in my community and found community? What did I wish I would have done more of or less of? I love this question. I feel like sometimes you realize you're not at fault if you haven't done something you wanted to do. You should just realize, though, this is a thing I wanted to do, and this is a thing I should have done less. But it's an equal amount of questions where you ask yourself about positive things and negative things that happened without you saying that last year was bad or good. It's not a thing that a reflection should actually signal how bad the year was. Just acknowledge it wasn't the best, but also see the positive sides of the year that you usually forget when you're thinking about all the negative things that cloud our mind. And then the last question here is that I think is important, maybe out of all my questions, is, am I still the same person I was at the beginning of the year? And even if you say yes, that's fine, because that's the point of realizing it. But we all grow, and the question is, how did you grow? Like, what made you a different person? And so this isn't about rewriting the year, it's about understanding it. And in the end of this reflection, I always recommend one simple but powerful exercise. Summarize a year in 3 words or 1. One is always like so interesting because when you actually see this cycle, in the beginning of the year, when you set an intention of this is what I want my year to be about, and in the end, when you forgot maybe the theme, but you said and reflect what actually the year was about, you can compare it and see what happened. And maybe understand better why things happened the way they did. So I want you to look not what it looked like from the outset, but what it felt from the inside. And that word becomes part of your transition into what's next. So, step 4. You need to understand that people learn differently. And I think you all know that the way we perceive information is differently too. So I think with the trend of creating an optional vision board, I should actually put it on the list. It was not mentioned in specifically podcasts, but I realized it is a thing that actually been helping me. I'm a visual person. I need to see something to actually believe it. And I think when you phrase your reflections, you should not say, I want to go more to the gym. I think you should phrase it in a way that makes it more achievable, that you actually want to go to the gym, but rather, I am going to the gym. Make it more a reality and execute it, but don't overthink it. Don't be the producer of a product that needs 10 years of development. Don't get me wrong, there's certain developments that do take time and it's fine. But in this regard, just do it. Don't overthink it. There will be an episode that will come out soon, and I'm really excited for it to come out, but it's about approaching strangers, and I think that's going to be an interesting thing, because that's exactly what sometimes you have to do when you approach a stranger. Just do it, don't overthink it, and think about it later. So, only after the reflection comes the vision. And so I want you to be very clear here. A vision board is optional. You don't have to do it, but it can be helpful. As long as you just don't put just beautiful pictures that you like on the board, and that's it. You do not need one for this process to work, but if you're someone who thinks visually, it can be a powerful way to translate the intention into something tangible. So if you do create one, let it be past informed, not fantasy driven. And I think that's the point. So before choosing an image, ask yourself, what do I want more of that already existed this year? What do I want less of that become obvious through reflection? How do I want my days to feel like? And this is where colors or the pictures you choose can actually install you to feel a certain way. So a vision board is not a wish list, it's a direction, because you're not going to be always, I'm not talking about manifestation and what people use that for. It is kind of manifestation, but I want it to be more grounded in daily principles that we actually see in daily life. So I want you to choose images that represent states of being calm, maybe, or strength, depth, focus, courage, not just milestones, things that correlate to the theme that you chose in the beginning of the year that you wanted to integrate. So this keeps manifestation more grounded in reality rather than escape. And choose it and allocate the way you feel like it. And I think vision boards shouldn't be, you can do one for your life, but I think it changes, right? The way we live through life, it changes, and what we value and want in life changes too. So maybe work with that by starting with one thing and then saying, I'm going to create a vision board for a year and see what happens. But if you don't, it's fine, because that's what vision boards are about. And that's what manifestation and maybe the resolutions are about. You don't have to always change, but you can also support past experiences to feel like you actually stick to your goals, stay with your goals too, and continue moving in that direction. So step 5, turn the theme into structure. Once your theme is clear, reflection is complete, and vision, if you choose it, a set structure becomes more easier. So you can ask yourself now, what habits would support this vision of me? What needs to be non-negotiable? And what does progress actually look like in real life? And that's important, because instead of overwhelming yearly goals, think of systems. If you autopilot habits that you can implement in the morning, like drinking a cup of water in the morning, but you have to do it. It's so much more difficult to unlearn something than learn something new. And for that reason, it won't be easy, but you should continue doing it and not stop. And if you do stop, don't relapse back to your old habits, because that's going to be counterproductive. Things happen. So try to continue going in that direction. You want to have a monthly or seasonal focus areas or check-in points rather than perfection. So this is how growth becomes more sustainable. And then last step 6, is to be honest and compassionate with yourself. And the reason why I think it's really important is because the final piece of this reset is honesty without the cruelty part that we always sometimes face ourselves. Growth doesn't require the pressure, it requires consistency and self-trust. And I think that's really important. So I want you to set a goal you feel 60 to 70% confident you can achieve. What I mean by 60 to 70% is not because you want to limit yourself, but because keeping promises to yourself builds momentum. And writing it down increases the chances of you actually doing it. Research shows that when you say something out loud, when you write it down, and when you actually think about it, it increases the chances almost to 50% that you will actually do it. And so get yourself a notebook and write it down what you actually want to achieve. So the purpose of a new year isn't to reinvent yourself overnight. It's to move one step closer to your higher self, patiently, intentionally, and with respect for the season you're in. It's okay if you're in a low, and it's okay if the next year is going to be another low. But that doesn't mean that your whole life is going to be a low point. It's going to be changing and shifting, and with that, you're also changing and shifting and evolving. So with that, this is actually the ending probably of this episode. And I want you to understand that you don't need a new personality for the new year. You need clarity, direction, and a relationship with yourself that's rooted in truth. And you can lie to everyone else around you that you want to go 5 times a week to the gym. And sorry for the gym being now an example, but I think it's just something I've been seeing a lot. I want you to be truthful to yourself and at least not lie to yourself. If you know that you're busy because you have 3 children and you have a dog at home and you have a job and a career and homework and presentations, you'll maybe not be able to go 5 times a week to the gym. And that's okay. Because sometimes you have to listen to your body or listen to your routine, or rather look at your routine and realize I can't right now do that. And that's totally fine. And life changes and shifts with things shifting around you too. So I want you to define a theme. Honor that was. Choose what's next, gently but deliberately. And that's how a reset actually lasts. So with that, I hope you have a great start, and I hope it was not too messy as an episode that was for once a solo episode. But I hope you enjoy the new episodes that will soon be dropped. And I wish you a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful semester ahead, a wonderful year. May you have a good year, beautiful, filled with memories, good or bad, but still good memories ahead, filled with people that were valuing you guys. And if not, may you find your community that you feel like you can be yourself with. So thank you so much for listening to another episode. I'm saying goodbye with this, and I'm super excited for this semester and for this new episode drop. So yeah, thank you so much for listening, and have a good day. Bye.